Brian Penny, hello.
Hey Brian, how are you keeping?
Great, thanks. Yeah, really good, really good. I believe you're in Kilkee Castle at
I
the moment.
am. I'm taking a bit of a midweek break, 2 days away from work. I feel, as you know, I only got over getting the PhD thesis off a
Yeah,
line, so a few of these little breaks interspersed over the next few months. So just to get the break, look after the mental health. Great
nice
spot,
one, nice one.
great spot. Really, really lovely, really lovely.
Excellent. Yeah, I actually saw some of your Instagram posts there from this morning. You were out shooting. Was it a clay pigeon shooting?
Play
Letting
pigeon
off a bit of
shooting.
steam.
Yeah. We're gonna go horse riding. I've never gone horse riding before,
You're
but
gonna.
what's called it? The timing wasn't right yet. They weren't out that day, so we done a bit of clay pigeon shooting. Really nice, really nice. How are you
Very
keeping
good.
yourself?
Great. Yeah, really good, really good. Yeah, it's a lovely autumn day here in Dublin. So yeah, but looking forward to this. What we're doing. So our brand new project here, the accountability habit.
This is exciting. And
It
just
is.
sharing, like I've learned so much from you over our journey in the last couple of years, and I'm just dying to share this with other people.
And vice versa, man. Yeah, absolutely. So this is effectively this is our weekly call that we've been having for a couple of years now, and we're just making it live. We're publishing it. We're sharing it with others because we've had so many great conversations and we've learned so much. The idea is just to let's share this with others and hopefully they can benefit in similar ways.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's nearly like we learned personally off of each other as well. But from a business perspective, in terms of the tactics I use, in terms of branding, everything else. But more importantly, and why we call it the accountability habit, we're keeping each other accountable, and taking actions in a consistent manner because of the discussions that we have and the lessons that we learn from each other. So just to share those lessons with other people, it's going to be great.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I think we're both big Simon Sinek fans.
We
Love
are.
the book Start with Why. So let's start with why will be for the audience. Why are we doing this in the first place? It's pretty much those to share those lessons learned. And I think for me as well, I like the work well community that I've grown. It's an underutilized and underserved part of that community has been, let's say, the self-employed people, the small business owners, those internally in organizations, maybe with an entrepreneurial mindset. Because a lot of the services I provide and the webinars and the podcasts will be focused on the senior leaders and the HR professionals. So it's just really nice to be able to give back to this really underserved part, certainly of my community. And I think it's probably similar enough for your own community, your own followers.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the one thing that I think is really, really important, Brian, it's like sometimes people separate mental well-being with mental well-being and mental health around separate from high performance and stuff like that. And I think sometimes high performers are seen as you're going to end up burnt out because you try to achieve at that high level. But I think they go hand in hand. You can perform at a really high level, do very well in whatever area you want to do and have success in that area. But you've got to look after the basics. You've got to look after your mental health. And I think there's a lovely combination between this as well. And I think that's been a big part of the discussions that we've had as well as to and why we're doing what we're doing as well. Like it's not only about growing the business, entrepreneurship, because we used to talk about the hustle and the problem with the hustle system as well. It's about hustling in a safe, responsible, and self-care kind of way. And I think that's really important. I think that's what we've done for each other.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully there's a lot we can share with people tuning in, with people joining us live, or people are going to watch the replay. That's the why. What's the what of this? It's going to be a weekly check-in. It's around that accountability piece. It's effectively our weekly check-in. Yeah. Where we just check on each other's progress, keep each other accountable, and that's been fantastic for me. I have to say, even the weeks where I haven't been really hitting things, falling a bit behind. I just remember, like, I've got my call with Brian coming up. I've got a couple of things I said I was going to do, haven't done them. It's that, isn't it? It's the keeping accountable, and some weeks it's going to be different topics. Like we might niche in a particular area. I know you've got you're doing some branding coming up soon, or you're going through that. You might talk us through how that's been going. I can talk to people about the podcast. It's going to be a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said there, but I remember at the very start when like we first met, I think I reached out to you, somebody in Davy Group. It was Grace in Davy Group with the HR
crowd. Grace, if you're tuning in.
Yeah, great. Thanks for making the introduction, Grace. And Grace says you've got to have a chat with Brian Crook. And we had a chat first time, and there was a synergy there, shared interests and stuff like that. And I remember on our first call, you said, I don't know, you were obviously on the accountability buzz at the time, actually, because you says, right, what's our plans for it? Because we started off every 2 weeks we'd meet up. What's our plans in 2 weeks? And I says, right, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I says, what are your plans in 2 weeks? And it was just instinctive. And I remember then building up to that in 2 weeks' time. I says, right, I have to make sure I have them things done. So I have them done. And you just kept me accountable. I kept you accountable. So that is what we're doing, really. That is exactly what we're doing. But I think there's other elements to it as well. Like it's about the lessons shared, failing better because we're failing together. We're going to be talking about branding, like you're doing a bit of rebranding you did a while ago. I am going to completely rebrand my company now as well. So I've learned them lessons off you. So it's getting our shared failures, our shared lessons, where I've learned from you, you've learned from me, and then both of those in combination, then we can share with other people and give people resources of where we went and what we did and the companies we dealt with. I think that's crucial as well of what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I've learned a lot from you is, I think we'll definitely touch on, is mentorship. Like you place a lot of value in mentorship. You've got some amazing mentors in your life personally and in business. So we will definitely touch on that. I'm a big fan of building communities. It's kind of what I've been doing with the Work Well community and the social enterprise I'm growing. So I'm sure we'll touch on that. We often touch on like physical health, how we exercise routines, nutrition habits, that kind of stuff as well. It's all of that, as well as all the business stuff. That's what we're going to be discussing.
Yeah, it's all of that mental health, physical health, because the mind-body connection, they're both intertwined and they're the foundations. You get that right. Because I'd have a lot of people, because of my background, people be talking about mental health, anxiety, depression. And I was thinking you can cut the head off all of these things if you eat well, sleep well, and exercise. So they are absolutely critical. And what I've recognized in the people, all of my mentors and a lot of people, high performers that I have dealt with in the past, they eat well, they sleep well, and they exercise. It's a common thread throughout that as well. And I think what other things we're going to be talking, like it is a mix between the business and the well-being side as well. But other things we're going to be talking about was, like, as you mentioned, podcasting, blogging, stuff like that, how to build your social media following, how to get customers, how to build mentors so you can get advice down the lines as well. And this is kind of a mentorship as well. Like it's us sharing our experience. It's a form of mentorship as well.
Yeah, lots of great stuff to look forward to over the coming weeks. And so we've had the why, we've had the what. Let's finish off Simon Sinek's golden circle, will we, with the how. How are we delivering this? Well, hopefully it's obvious enough. We want to do it live every single Wednesday at 12:30. How is that for keeping us accountable now? We've got to be on our toes now to deliver this every Wednesday at 12:30 live, and hopefully it'll go on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And we're using a platform called Restream here. And I imagine one of the episodes, a future episode, we'll talk about how we've gone about this as well. It'll be meta. Like we'll go into all the kind of details, share all the resources and tools we're using.
Yeah, and it's a great example of what we've been about, Brian, from the very start, and a great learning for people. Like this is you got Restream. This is your first time using it. This is our test.
This is our test here. Yeah,
it looks like it's working very, very well. Let's hope people can actually hear us and it's going well. And I think that's really, really important. But I think the how we're doing it as well, it's going to be strictly 30 minutes every week as well. We're not going to be taking up too much of people's time. And then what we'll be doing within that as well, like let's say we're doing rebranding, and Brian shared his lessons for rebranding. I'm using those lessons now, and I could be talking about the companies that I've dealt with, the books I've read, the blogs I've read. So any resources we use on our journey, for good or bad, we'll be sharing those as well. So that's what we're going to be doing. It's this podcast, us talking, as well as the shared resources that we've accessed as well. And then potential for having guests on as well. I think that's something we might do down the line. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. It's a great option, isn't it? Like I imagine we won't run out of subject matter. Things to talk about. We never have in the past. I don't think we will in the future. But it'll be a nice way. There is a way to bring in an additional guest. We can have a chat with an additional guest who might be a subject matter expert, who might have questions, and we can chat to them that way. So yeah, that's the plan. So every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. kind of lunchtime. We were thinking about the idea of calling it lunchtime live. It's going to be, hopefully it's easy to consume. You can have it on in the background while you're having your lunch, or maybe you're even out for your stroll at lunchtime. So hopefully it'll be easy to digest. And we're going to try and keep it, again, to keep accountable. We're going to try and keep it to the half an hour each week.
Yeah, and it is the check-in. It's the check-in, and then there'll be a loose topic. Then a loose topic every week. We're gonna go into who we are now in a few moments, but really loosely what the topic is today. It's really what the core message of this thing is, and it's basically the accountability habit. And what it is, it's keeping us consistent by staying accountable to each other. We're going to try to keep other people consistent using accountability as well, as us being that accountability as well. So will we go into a little bit, Brian, of who we are and what we're doing, where we are at the moment? Do you want to start?
Let's bring people up to speed on that, and maybe even tell us what are your. We'll effectively try and keep ourselves accountable, but to the end of the year, we'll share what our goals are from now until the end of the year.
Yeah, do you want to go first, or will I?
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. So, for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm sure most people don't. My name is Brian Pennie, and I've been on a bit of a two-stage journey in life. So I was a heroin addict for most of my adult life, and I got clean in 2013, October 8th to be precise, and nearly eight years. I will be next month. And in those 8 years, I went back and done a degree in psychology. I got a scholarship for Trinity College, and only last week I handed in my PhD for my thesis. So hopefully I'll be a PhD, Dr. Brian Pennie now in a couple of months when I defend it. And in that time as well, I wrote a book. I wrote my memoir, Bonus Time, which is about the core of gratitude and being grateful for life. That's really the core message of that book. But within that as well, it's given me having a second chance at life. That's what the book is about. I've done certain things in life. I believe change is possible, and I've launched my own company. I've done several other projects on the side, and what I'm doing right now with that company is I'm doing lots of talks, lots of keynote talks. I've launched consultancy business as well, where I'm speaking about high performance and mental health on one-to-one basis, and executive coaching on one-to-one basis, and on a group basis as well. And then courses, I create a lot of online courses as well. So they're really the three streams of my business: the consultancy, the talks, and the courses. That's really what I'm doing right now at this moment, and rebranding all of that at the moment. And really, after the PhD, the next 6 months are going to be crucial for me in terms of my business surviving or prospering. It really is. So it'll be an interesting journey to see if it works or if I fail.
Amazing stuff, yeah, amazing. Especially the last 8 years has been incredible to follow, and look forward to that week when you join this show where you'll be officially Dr. Brian Pennie. Nice.
It would be cool. It would be a bit surreal. It'll be a bit surreal. Yeah. Let's hopefully sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. No, listen, really well done on that. And I can't compete with that now, but I worked. So my background, I worked in the corporate world for 10 years in IT. I was a management consultant, and I use this joke too much, but I'm a recovering management consultant now. But it was just, during that time, the work was fine, it was perfectly fine, great experience, learned so much, but it wasn't anything I was passionate about. So during my time there, I started researching, educating myself in the areas of physical health and workplace well-being, and was offered voluntary redundancy. So I was able to transition nicely into that was kind of a buffer to start my own business, which was great. And dabbled in the area of, I was calling it office worker health at the time. Since we changed that to, it's more about the workplace than the office. But in the very early days, I was going into companies and they're selling these one-off services, a talk, a workshop, a training. But it just, while it was perfectly fine, it just didn't sit well with me. It was, one, there was no long-term benefit for the company, for the people in the company. It was just one-off random acts of wellness. And number two, the companies themselves, they didn't know what they were looking for either, really. They were looking for a guest to do a talk here and there, a different guest next year, and a different guest after that. So there was no kind of long-term partnership opportunities really either. So it wasn't good for business, and it wasn't good for the people in the companies as well. So again, went back to the drawing board, researched even more, and just said I'd take a chance on doing something totally different. Created a forum instead to bring people together in this community in Ireland to give them a sounding board, because it didn't exist there. People interested in workplace well-being, either in a company or looking to sell into a company, to share their lessons learned, what's working, what's not. And that forum has developed into the Workplace Wellbeing Ireland community. There's nearly 4,000 members at the moment, and it's going from strength to strength. And off the back of it, it's a totally free community, by the way, and it's podcasts, it's webinars, there's blog articles, and there's a forum there to ask questions, all free. You do need to pay the bills. So the revenue stream that has grown out of that is the WorkWell Institute. So it's an online and it's a live education hub, if you like. So online training courses for people within organizations looking to develop programs, or for the individuals in those organizations looking to develop additional skills. And Brian, you have a course up there in the Institute as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's an amazing journey, Brian, as well. It's just, and it's the clarity of your message is what I just love. Ever since I started speaking with you, it's the clarity of that message just shines through all the time. It's great to watch.
Thanks, yeah, thanks a million. And so somehow as well ended up as leading the postgrad in Trinity College in Tangent there in workplace wellness also. And we've got a masterclass series coming up for the next few months, and this next one is on Monday. Reach out if you're interested in that. But yeah, so it's that, and I just had too much free time with all this stuff going on. So I also set up a social enterprise, which I'm really passionate about. So effectively, it's another community I'm building there, and that's Park Hit, and it's about free resistance training workouts in local communities, in local parks. And I'm sure we'll touch on all of this in kind of more detail in future episodes. But that's pretty much it. And not to mention, I've got 2 kids, a lovely partner as well, Annalise. So it's trying to juggle all of those things and trying to exercise a couple of times a week as well. It's all fun and games.
It's all fun and games. It's getting the balance with that as well. Yeah. I think one thing with myself and yourself, Brian, as well, like when we met, it was just that shared interest and passion for different things, but it's the love of what we do. I think there's a shared love of what we do. Could I ask you, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned? Because it's a successful business now. Like what's the biggest lesson you've learned?
I'd say you've touched on it actually. I'd say it's consistency, just to be consistent.
Yeah.
When I first started that, it was a blog, Office Worker Health. It was called officeworkerhealth.com. I blogged every single Wednesday for 4 years, never missed a day. And what did I get? I pretty much at the time it felt like I had achieved nothing with it.
Yeah.
It was very small amount of people visiting the website. There was a small amount of traffic coming through in terms of business, in terms of revenue. It felt like nothing, but I didn't know in the background I built up in a decent enough profile. It allowed me, when I did rebrand to Workwell Ireland and started hosting these events, 100 people turned up at the first event. So it actually had been working away, and it was a great habit to learn as well, to be like that. So consistency in business plus in life and exercise as well. I don't lift heavy weights, I don't run marathons or anything like that, but I will always exercise 3 or 4 times a week. It's that small, steady, consistent growth over time, which has been the biggest lesson for me.
Yeah, it's crazy to say that as well, Brian. Like exercise for me is what, like, I love that book. I can't remember who wrote the book. It's called The One Thing. And he talks about what's that one domino that knocks down the rest of the dominoes, that helps to knock down the rest of the dominoes. And for me, my one non-negotiable is exercise. Once I exercise regularly, my mind is right. I make good decisions. I make better decisions. I take better actions based on that. So I think that having a non-negotiable is really important. But I think the biggest lesson for me, whether it's, and as you said, whether it's life, whether it's business, has been consistency. And I think as a caveat of that as well, I think it's persistence as well, or perseverance in the face of the challenges that overcome. Like it's easy to say, oh, let's be consistent, but it's your ability to stay consistent and persist in spite of the challenges that come your way. Like as you said, Brian, you had a new baby not so long ago, a couple of months ago. That's a challenge to overcome. That's going to take a little bit of time away from the business. COVID-19. Personally, for me, COVID-19 completely destroyed me existing PhD at the time. But it was like, right, how can you overcome that challenge? And I think it's just putting one step in front of the other. And I think, like we talked about accountability today, the accountability habit, and the essence of accountability is because, like, we're social animals, and we lift each other, we help each other. And when you have someone else to help, a lending hand, whether it's to pick you back up or bring you on the journey with you, it just makes it so much easier. So having that accountability partner, but at the end of the day, accountability helps you to be consistent. And it links in, like, if you are consistent and a bump comes in the road, you will persist through your accountability partner. So for me, consistency is just the golden nugget and the areas that align around that. And I think something for me that's very important as well, and you touched on it as well, like intensity is important, but consistency is the holy grail. Like, you're not going to get fit for a marathon by going in and running on a treadmill for 10 hours. You've got to do that on a consistent basis. And I think it's just some people can see it as boring sometimes, I suppose, because consistency isn't spontaneous. It's that turning up over and over again. But there's another element that I think is very important in life and business as well, and it's around trust. And how do you build trust? It's by being consistent. If someone someone shows you showing up all the time, well, they're going to have trust in you because they see the consistency of your thoughts and on your actions as well. So definitely the biggest lesson in my life has been consistency as well in the different elements of it, the different modes of it, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess it might depend on the person, and I'm not too sure, but you see it in exercise as well quite often where, I don't know, there's some people, when they have a big something to aim for, like a marathon, a triathlon, an Ironman, and they put huge effort in to training for that big event.
Yeah.
And, it's their regime is fantastic in the lead up to that. And then they do really well at the event, hopefully. But then it's after that, they kind of maybe they fall off the wagon a little bit, or they're a bit lost.
Or they struggle physically as well.
They struggle big time. It's nice to set challenges, to set goals, and have something to aim for.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just that big bang that doesn't seem. I don't like that approach at all. I think it's the consistency across the year, and absolutely have those kind of larger challenges, but make sure it's not that be all or end all and just one massive event.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I'm going to say this. It's like everything in life, but there is no everything and there is no definitives. I think we always say like I think as human beings we tend to go towards black and white thinking. That's the best way of doing it. That's always the way you should do it. But within that as well, like I think if somebody thinks they have the answer to everything, they are pretty much wrong, because no one has not one thing works for everybody. We're so different. And in my psychological studies, like variance and diversity, this has been the biggest learnings for me. And coming from the addiction world as well, like there's certain ways that people say you have to get clean from addiction. But what I found is there's multiple different ways, because we're not going to talk about it here, but addiction isn't really addiction. It's the mental and emotional anguish you feel. It's the reason why you use the drug or the drink or the eating the food or the retail therapy, whatever it is. And we all have these different histories. So it's really important to realize that there's different things going on for different people. And although consistency for me is the holy grail, that and self-awareness, you have to be aware enough to see that different things work for different people and use that pragmatic approach of what actually works for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It makes so much sense. Brian, we're close to the hour now. We're definitely going to finish up by inside the 30 minutes. It is the accountability habit. What are you planning now for the rest of the year? Give us an idea of what are you aiming for? What are the goals?
Yeah, so the big plan. So obviously I've gotten the PhD thesis over the line, so I will be defending that. I can nearly park that for a while because I'll just be defending that project, and I know it inside out because it's been my life for a long time now. So I'll be defending that. I'll hopefully get the Dr. Brian Pennie tag, which would be great for credibility and stuff like that. So that's one of the plans that I need to get over the line. But I'm doing work with like some great companies at the moment. I won't name them here, but doing some fantastic work with companies right around consultancy. And it's around performance enhancement, but not in terms of just burnout. It's around burnout prevention. And a big part of what I do is around creative problem solving. And I'm really excited around this idea of mental models, which are simply, people get lost in this, but they're literally psychological explanations of how the world works. And some of the biggest thinkers in the world, the likes of Elon Musk, Ariana Huffington, Bill Gates, all of these thinkers have been using these for a very long time. And something I want to do is bring this way of thinking to the Irish audience. So I'm bringing these courses, these consultancy tools into the corporate world on one-to-one basis to help people with problem solving, and on a group thing as well. So this is the big thing that I want to do, and I'm doing that in multiple different ways. And then the online courses as well. So as part of the business, they're the big streams that I have going on at the moment.
Brilliant. Yeah.
For yourself. And then the rebrand, of course.
Oh, the rebrand. Yeah. I mean, why don't we talk about, let's say we'll talk about the branding next week. Will be the rebranding. Because I've kind of gone through something similar. So why don't we talk about it as our subject for next week?
Yeah, that'll be definitely a nice way to go. And it's not just in terms of marketing and the brand, it's in terms of how you are perceived with other people. Because I think we've spoke a lot on this as well. And it's about the riches are in the niches, that way. It's like niche down. And this is my big struggle at the moment, like, because I do performance enhancement, I do mental health, I do a lot of psychological stuff, but I need to niche down. And this is my big struggle at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops over time.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah,
some lovely comments coming in there as well. Yeah, so thanks everybody for all that. I can see some of them coming through. We're probably missing some as well, but thanks. Here, Rob Cullen just popped up there.
Rob,
Rob. I think Rob said to me ages ago, "You two guys should get a podcast," if I'm not mistaken.
No way.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And here, before we finish up, Brian, I know we touched on as well. What's your big challenges there? What's the big thing you're doing now at the moment and you hope to have done over the next while?
Yeah, so between now and the end of the year, a couple of big projects. One is the Trinity, so Tangent, the masterclass series. We're running a workplace wellbeing masterclass series, the first of which is this coming Monday, and they're totally free. There's 3 of them from between now and the end of the year. First one is on a framework for workplace wellbeing. Reach out to me if you want some details on that. The other things is, so I started working with an agency recently. So we're like yourself, like I'm a one-man band here pretty much. Yeah. I started working with an agency recently for my workplace wellbeing, for the online courses, for the kind of promotion of things. And they're doing some great work on content and some of the content that I'm creating and just tidying it up into kind of really cool videos and promoting that. And they have this kind of idea of a launch strategy for the courses that I run. So we're running through that. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm excited by it though. Like I'm learning a lot from these guys anyway. So between now and the end of the year, that'll go through a couple of phases, a couple of launches. So that'll be really interesting to see how that goes. And then the other thing is I very recently got the first, there was just a small amount of funding for the Park Hit social enterprise. So we'll be kind of putting that to good use. This will allow us to really grow Park Hit, to get it into a couple of more parks, into more communities. So it's the first bit of funding as well. So it's really exciting. So we're hoping to get that in the doors before the end of the year and kind of get it out. It's going to support us with insurance and reaching out to other parks. So there's 3 big projects for starters anyway, between now and the end of the year that I'm really excited about.
And do you know what I love about them as well, Brian? Like I know what's going on with you, and I've learned lessons from what you're talking about, and you've learned that from me. And that's what it's about, the shared lessons, the shared failures, keeping each other accountable, stay consistent. That's what it's really all about. And that's where we're going to try to bring other people on the journey with us while we're doing that.
Exactly. That's the plan. So I think we're done unless you have any last words, Brian.
No, I think we said we're going to be strict on the 30 minutes. And we're just 29 minutes. So that's a strict thing, guys. We don't want to be wasting anyone's time. We want to keep down to the time. So no, that's great. Really enjoyed this first call. Thanks for the engagement, guys. Really great having people join. Love the comments and all that as well. So just really looking forward to sharing our learnings on this journey. Absolutely. Yeah, well said, Brian. And thanks everyone for joining in. So same time, same bat channel next week, 12:30 on a Wednesday. And we'll see you then. See you then. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.